Stokes.
Hey, Justin, it's Shooter. I hope it's okay. I called a couple minutes early.
Hey, man, you're perfectly fine. I appreciate you being punctual, if anything.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I thank you for working with my time frame.
Most certainly, you're a busy man. Let's jump right in, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, bud.
Okay, first things first. For Kuntosh for Giorgio, you unveiled this album through the video game Shroud of the Avatar. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I did.
Let's discuss that and why you wanted to pursue that non traditional form of release for Kuntosh for Giorgio.
Man, it kind of started, of course, with Richard Garriott's involvement in the record because I um I had already bought this, like I had already kickstarted this game, backed it, I guess, what they call that,
Mm-hmm.
when it first launched because I was a very big fan of the Ultima series and then ultimately Ultima Online, which Gary had created. And as a kid, those games were very big for me. I was a big computer guy my whole life, like from the moment that my dad brought home the Apple IIe, and we were, I just saw it as the greatest tool, and it led through so much of my life being involved in music and art and everything. So the computer itself was always very important, and I was just somehow kicking around and got wind of this game, and so I backed it early on. And what was very interesting about the game is they let you come into the game in its very early form, and they would just build around the community as it came. So I was kind of in and out of there a lot, and then I found Richard Garriott on um, Twitter, and I just read this book by Ernest Cline called Ready Player One. Are you familiar with that book?
I am. I believe it's being adapted into a motion picture by Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that book. I read that book, and it was just that book just hit me like a ton of bricks because it was just written for. It felt like it was written for me. I mean, it just every reference in that, from Garriott. They mentioned Garriott to like Blade Runner and War Games and these, Rush 2112, like all these crazy references from kind of my wheelhouse were in this book, and so I think I found Gary on the internet, and I think I said something to him about the book and how it was awesome that he was mentioned in the book, and as it kind of kept going, our friendship started blossoming. Whatever, I kind of cold emailed him with this idea to do a piece for the record, and he did it, which was really cool because not only was that something meaningful to me to have him on the record, but I knew it was going to work really well. The idea, just having him discuss, his own pioneering of his own corner of the world, similar to the way Giorgio was one of the first people to like sync all these different synthesizers together and make music that was primarily electronic. Like Gary kind of did the same thing with early computers making games. So here he is on the record and everything like that, and I got to meet him. I got to hang out with him. He came to LA, and we went out to him and Star Long, who was the other guy named Dark Star in the games, but he was really his partner in creating Ultima Online, which was the first really massively multiplayer in-game thing, just playing with tons of other people and could communicate with them and stuff. So uh, they came here. We went out to eat. They took me and my wife out to the Magic Castle here in LA, which you have to have like you either have to be a member and pay to get into it. You always have to dress in the suit and tie, and like, or you can be a magician and be a member. And see, Garrett is a magician because when he was in space, he did a card trick in space, and he sent that in his audition, and they
Oh
gave him
wow.
it.
Then that they forgive me for interrupting, but that preempted his his entrance into the Magic Castle.
Yeah, yeah,
That's exceptional. Oh my God. I did. That's wow. That's because how many magicians have done that? That's oh wow. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I don't
None
think
of them.
anyone. So I think so they accepted it, him as a magician, and so we went there, and I got to meet him and hang out with him, and that was just awesome because he's just such a surreal human being. Like he is literally like everything you kind of would expect him to be. Like he's kind of Lord British, this person who's in these games too. So like, that was happening, and at that dinner, I think is when it came up. It was like we should just do like some kind of record release party in the game. Like this is before even I believe the phonographs were incorporated into the game and stuff, which ended up being so much cooler of a thing because by that time they had already gotten these uh, amplification devices, vibrational amplitude devices. That's what they're called in the game. They're like radios, and they
Right.
had a radio station that broadcasts all day that you could like put these in your house and listen to the stream the radio as you're playing the game or doing whatever. So like we knew we could do broadcast the actual record in the game, but then once they developed the phonographs and you could have these wax cylinders in the game and people could take them and own them and then play them in their house in the game. It just seemed really like we can do this and it's going to be really cool, you know. And even though the game is like not even into beta yet, you know, but this was kind of a stress test for them too because and it ended up being way more than we thought. Like we thought there was going to be like maybe 100 people show up for this. We didn't think it was going to be like 600 people, and it was. And like the way the game is built is certain areas. It's like you can have instead of having different servers, each area is kind of handled as its own area. So like it allows for a lot more people to be in the entire world, but it also what happens is if too many people get into one area, it splits it into two instances where it's like two separate dimensions, and so they can handle the workload of the amount of people. So when we did this thing, man, it was like I walked in this room and there was like 400 people in this room, and within about 10 minutes, the instance split both parties up to about 300 people, and so we had to kind of adapt. They had this whole quest set up. They have something called the Britannia Theater Troupe, and this is like such a testament to the community in this game. But like they have a group who had written a script and had this whole thing set up where this guy was going to come in and say that they couldn't find me and blah blah blah. It was like a whole thing that was planned. It was going to take all these people in multiple locations in these quests, but because it was so overloaded with people, they had to kind of on the fly redo how we were doing the quest because the contest was the first 25 people got free vinyl. The first person um, got this one track that wasn't on the record that I had done with more of Richard Garriott's voice called The Death of the Little British. And so it was kind of like we just had this like massive overload, but at the same time it worked. I mean, once these guys all rewrote how they did the script immediately, it worked, and we had people in there that were winning and 25 people and everything. It worked, but it was such a cool experiment, and everyone is so cool in that community, especially Richard Garriott and Star Long, and then showing up, and like Star is notorious for causing chaos. So like at one point during the event, all these kind of monsters and stuff started showing up and just destroying players, and there was a plague that got sent and everyone couldn't get rid of, and all. It was just crazy, It was like it was so surreal. And me and my 8-year-old daughter, she's really into it, so I set up that night like I had some friends here that were occupying her brother Blackjack because he's 4, and like if I sit on the computer with her for like 2 or 3 hours, like he's gonna get pissed. So
Right.
I had people that were here playing with him, so she and I could do this thing, and we sat in there, and it was awesome. Like me and my childhood friend Angela, who I'm still friends with, her son and my daughter met for the first time in that game on that day. And it's so weird that like how interesting of an experience it was, and how much fun it was, and how good the people are in that community. It just kind of was just this really special event, man, that made everybody really happy, and we had a lot of fun, and it was a cool way of kind of doing the best I could to pay Richard back for being part of my record and kind of getting my fans pointed towards his thing, and him doing the same thing afterwards. We like took the cylinders and took some of the art that you can hang in the house, and they made a special phonograph, and you can buy that now on their in-game store, and like portion of the proceeds go to breast cancer research and stuff. So we're continuing to do some really cool stuff with the album in that game. And this is all stuff that I would have never been able to do had I not released it myself, because you get involved with other people with money and labels and like they don't want to do this because it doesn't seem like it's going to be that profitable, or they don't want, you know, it just becomes like people you're having to run all these ideas by. But with BCR and us making kind of 11th hour decision, let's do this ourselves. Me and Adam, my partner and manager, like we just have been having a field day doing very non-conventional things to get this record out there, because honestly, this is much better at speaking to the audience that a lot of this record kind of serves than doing it through the traditional channels of record promotion, you know?
No, I got you. It sounds like that this is such an innovative project that not only is such an interesting collage of sound, but also blends so many genres pretty well that you'd have to kind of find a specialized means of hitting the right niche, because you've got both people who love your music, but also people who, if they're gonna like this record, aren't going to be interested necessarily in the traditional forms. If you've got so many weird sound bites and Brandy Carlisle with the Never-Ending Story, you know, meanwhile Marilyn Manson doing a cover of David Bowie's Cat People, you know, that's a tall order to fill without going to different lengths. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Because I mean, even the Never-Ending Story in itself is just like, it's one of those things. I mean, it has a huge potential for failure and for it to be really cheesy, like, you know. And I would have never done it had I not had Brandy said she said she wasn't going to do it. It wasn't like I was going to go sing it or find somebody else. Like the reason why even I had the idea to put that song is because I met Brandy and she had the Never-Ending Story logo tattooed on both of her arms, her left hand or right arm. And I was like, man, like that's awesome, you know. Like it's something that as a kid, like, was huge to me. And so when we got around to this time, I told her, I said, I'm doing this record, and if you'll sing the Never-Ending Story, I'll put it on there. You know what I mean? And she ended up doing it, and her with the twins, that are the great singers that play with her, and like it was just one of those things. It was just so cool, and you know, and you can't really pinpoint what the audience for that is. I mean, you're much more likely to find people who are going to really enjoy that in places where you would find people around my age and really young people. Those are the two groups that really get this. And like, my kids love the Never-Ending Story. So like when they hear the record, they love that it's on the record, you know. And to them, it's not weird at all that I would put the Never-Ending Story on the record, you know. But like to like, you know, a random DJ at a country radio station that I visited in 2005 is going to look at it and be like, probably like, that's awesome, but not know what to do with it. You know what I mean? Like someone who's in the Richard Gere world, or someone who's in like, who had some kind of movie sites picking up the record, you know. And it's kind of been interesting. Like I had GameSpot, like GameSpot's like this video game blog that I've read for 15 years. Like I've always read this thing, and it's been kind of where I got my information since it was put up. And they covered the record, and I was like, this is such a weird bucket list moment that GameSpot's covering something that I did. You know what I mean? And it just, it was so out there. But it really works, because I think those people respond to it, and they're interested by it. And there's kind of, you know, at this point, the whole record was me just going through my life and finding things that I loved, and putting a spin on them, and experimenting with all this stuff, putting all these like kind of hidden samples of things that are all just throughout my life, and things that I love from when I was a kid, the things that I love now, artists, writers, you know. There's a lot of things hidden in the record, and so it's like doing the whole thing was just like feeding the 8-year-old shooter, you know. It was like, it was a cool feeling, and it still is. It feels like something that's so in my wheelhouse.
Well, I got you.
Like, you know?
No, absolutely. That's the sort of the as you said, that's the great thing about the record. Which, really quick, I want to touch on something because I don't want to take up too much of your time. With
Oh,
this,
sorry, I'm rambling too.
no, no, no.
So sorry.
It's great to have that kind of information. It makes for a better interview if I can get an in-depth answer. So thank you in advance for that. But I do want to ask with this, is this because this is a convergence of so many things that are near and dear to you? Is this sort of a watershed moment for you that will sort of tease potential future projects, like a changing of how you do those future projects, or do you think that this is
I
just a
think that it's
one-off?
all. That's a really good question because like where would I go from right now? Like I always have to make some kind of a 90-degree turn when I make a record because I have to. I really feel like records are like movies, they're like films, and like every time that I go see a Quentin Tarantino film, I'm not by any means saying that I'm like the Quentin Tarantino's music because I know I'm very much not. But when I go see his movies, there's always it's like a completely different type of movie every time, but yet it has this kind of common thread. And as he keeps making movies, some people have different opinions of his movies. I personally loved The Hateful Eight, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought that it may be my favorite picture of his, which is I know pretty bold statement, but
Better than
like,
Reservoir Dogs, really.
well, man, I love Reservoir Dogs. Of
Me too.
course, I love Reservoir Dogs. I love Pulp Fiction. I love the fucking things he's written, like Natural Born Killers and True Romance. And
From Dusk
I
Till
think,
Dawn.
yeah, Dust Till Dawn, fantastic movie.
Sure.
And like all those kind of things. But I'm also the kind of guy that can do that in a moment, like with an artist, like with their new record. It's just like I'm just all about it for maybe forever, maybe for a while. But with this one, I really thought that it was brilliantly made in certain ways and fed certain information. Just the way it was done, it was so simple. It was like a Columbo episode, and it was just to me, it just had this timeless quality that like I know that that's one of those movies that if it's ever on, I'm gonna always put it on, and like so every record for me is like that. Like every record is like I'm taking on a whole new story and a new adventure with a new cast of sounds and things, and every time I never like enjoy kind of chasing something I already did. So like with this, it's also always like a growing and learning experience. And I've also always said that records are like building on rooms into a house. Like you start with this one room and this one sound. As you keep building, you're still living in that house. You just have all these other rooms you can now go in and do all these different things. And so to me, when after I finish a record like this, it's just like adding a room to the house. And I know that that after the experience of the learning experience of finishing a record like this, there's things I'm going to always draw from, but I'm going to find a new sound to build another room with the next record. So, it could be any direction. I don't foresee myself staying in a very simple, like I did two really simple records with The Inner Life and Family Man, and it was an experimental time in my life where I was just focused on songwriting on acoustics and seeing what would happen. Enjoyed it and I liked it, but doing stuff that is more experimental, more kind of genre bending and stuff, that's where really my heart lies, and it's something that I love. And so I foresee like the Giorgio wing of the house is staying. You know what I mean? It's just like the Theo Baton Country wing of the house is staying. So wherever I go next, who knows? But it'll always be in the background. It'll always be a room in that house for me.
No, I understand completely. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much, and I'd love to come back to talk to you sometime because it sounds like there's a lot of ground that could still be covered, not necessarily with one particular project, but with you personally, because there's sort of a convergence of new media here that I'm particularly intrigued by. So
that's cool, man. Oh, anytime, dude. I enjoyed talking to you. I mean, talking at you, I guess.
No, hey, man, I appreciate the answers. Thanks.
But it was fun. So anytime you want to talk, man, just hit Craig up, and he's on board for good. So he's kind of a CR dude. He knows I get in touch with me. Same with Adam. And if you're going to be at one of the shows that we're at, I would love for you to come.
All right, man. I'll be there at Dixon. But real quick before I let you go, you did something very nice. You were involved in a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society effort a few years ago that a friend of mine, Chip Hoback, put together. Before I let you go, I just wanted to say that really meant the world to him that you were involved in that. He helped raise $74,000 to fight blood cancers. So, wanted to pass